Welcome to E-Pathshala in Linguistics. We are dealing with the topic Language Universals and Language Typology. My name is K.V. Subbarao, Professor of Linguistics. Today we are going to discuss copy control in Dravidian. All of you, I am sure, know what control is. So I am just first to give you the aim of this unit. We would like to briefly discuss what is forward control, what is backward control. Then we move on to a new phenomenon called copy control. And we'll discuss more about backward control. And we'll try to provide evidence in terms of copy control from Telugu, a Dravidian language. And that will be followed by the conclusion. In the last module, in module 13 on control, we studied the nature of non-finite clauses, in which the identical subject is present. An identical subject is present overtly, either in the matrix clause or in the embedded clause. The most prevalent structure that is found across languages universally is the subject of the matrix clause is overtly present and the subject of the embedded clause is not overtly present. This is what we call forward control. Forward control is found in English, in French, in languages such as Hindi, Urdu, Punjabi, in all Indian languages it is found. However, the opposite of this phenomenon can also be thought. How? That is, you can have the embedded subject overtly present and the matrix subject absent. This phenomenon is called backward control. Let me define. The subject of the embedded clause is overtly present and the subject of the matrix clause is not overtly present. The subject of the matrix clause surfaces as a null element, and this null element is generally an obligatory small pro. That means a pronoun cannot occur in that position. We provide an example of forward control from Hindi Urdu. हर एक बच्चा अपने अपने घर जाना चाहता है. Here, हर एक बच्चा is the subject of the matrix clause, which means every child. The subject of the embedded clause is a big pro, which is co-indexed with the subject of the matrix clause. And this sentence means each child or every child wants to go to his own house. You can check such sentences in your own language. There is no dearth for such sentences in any South Asian language. Notice that in forward control, the subject of the embedded verb is non-finite. Let's take an example. Each child wants to go to his or her own house. In backward control, the subject of the embedded clause is overtly present and the matrix clause is absent. Let us take an example from Telugu. All Dravidian languages have forward control and backward control. So only some Indo-Aryan languages such as Assamese, Marathi, Konkani have both forward and backward control. All the rest like Bengali, Hindi, Kashmiri, Urdu, etc., they only have forward control. Now let's take a Telugu example to illustrate forward control. Pro occurs as the subject of the embedded clause in S2 in sentence number 3. Master garu ఒంట్లో బాగోక ఇంటికి వెళ్ళిపోయారు. మాస్టర్ గారు టీచర్ ఒంట్లో బాగోక having not felt well ఇంటికి వెళ్ళిపోయారు. He went home. So now you have pro in the embedded clause. So this is a case of forward control. Pro is co-indexed with the teacher. The opposite is possible. In backward control, the embedded subject is overtly present and the matrix subject is a null pro. Backward control from Telugu. Master gariki ఒంట్లో బాగోక ఇంటికి వెళ్ళిపోయారు. The embedded subject is dative case marked because having not felt well to feel good or to feel well is a predicate that requires a dative subject. And that is the embedded verb, Vantlo Bagoka. This is a negative conjunctive participle. So Master Garu is the subject. Since the participle, having not felt well, requires a dative subject, Master Gariki Untlo Bagoka. Now the null, the matrix subject is null, which is a small pro, and intiకి వెళ్ళిపోయారు. So what you notice here is, we are providing an evidence with the help of the dative subject to show that the embedded subject can be overtly present in Telugu while the matrix subject is null. In sentence number 3, you have seen the other way, where you have the matrix subject which is nominative case marked and the embedded subject which is pro, which is actually dative case marked. But since pro cannot carry any case marker, the pro is not visible, but it is a dative case marked pro. Master Garu, Ontlo Bagoka, Intiki Vediparu. Telugu also provides, Telugu and all Dravidian languages provide good evidence to show that pro in a language can be case marked. Big pro can be case marked. Sentence number 3 is an example. Similar examples can be found in all Dravidian languages. They are found in Rabha. They are found in Manipuri. So, the general principle that normally says that pro cannot be case marked is violated in Dravidian languages, in Rabha, in Manipuri, and also in Icelandic. Let us go to see what forward control is from Tibeto-Burman, Mizo. Mizo is a Kukichin language, and most of the Kukichin languages provide evidence for forward as well as backward control. Let's take example number 5 from Mizo. Zavan Chutlenga Chut Adu. Zava wants to sit on the bench. Now, want is a transitive verb, therefore, it requires the aggregative marker N with the subject. Zavan Adu is the matrix clause, and the verb to sit is minus transitive. It requires a pro because it is infinitive, and the infinitive Mizo has 2 different forms for the verb. One is the finite form and one is the non-finite form. In sentence number 5, you can see Chut is minus finite form because it is an embedded non-finite infinitival complement construction with pro as the embedded subject. So let me read the sentence for you. Zavan Chutlenga Chut Adu. Notice that pro is coindexed with Zava in the matrix clause. Backward control from Mizo. Zava Chutlenga Achu Du. Now, why Zava is nominative case marked? If Zava is the subject of the matrix sentence, then Zava should have carried an ergative case marker. But the fact that Zava is nominative case marked indicates that the embedded verb must be minus transitive. That's what exactly it is. True, the verb to sit is minus transitive, but it is plus finite. Why? Because your subject is present here. So, you have a sentence here where the matrix subject is a null pro, embedded subject is overtly present, embedded subject is nominative case marked because the embedded verb is minus transitive, and interestingly, the matrix verb does not carry the subject agreement marker. Why? Because the matrix subject is 0. When you have a zero null subject, there is no agreement marker at all in meso. Now we discuss the case of copy control. Here too we will discuss, take non-finite clauses. Here the subject of the matrix clause as well as the subject of the embedded clause, both are overtly present. Such a phenomenon does not exist in languages such as English, French, German, Hindi, Urdu, Punjabi, Kashmiri, etc. So, now let's take a case of copy control to show that copy control in Telugu requires some conditions to be met. Let's take sentence number 9. The teacher, having not felt, went home. Here, Master Garu is the subject of the matrix clause, went home is the predicate. Now, what is the embedded predicate? It's a dative subject because not feeling well requires a dative subject. So, we have put he polite dative. Master Garu, he polite dative, having not felt, went home. This sentence is ungrammatical. That means, in Telugu, copy control cannot occur if both the matrix subject and then the embedded subject are overtly present. Notice that in S2 Ayanaki is co-indexed with Master Garu. We have used an index here, E, I and I. So, Master Garu is co-indexed with Ayanaki. So, the indices are the same for both. So, Haddad in 2009, in one claims that copy control is possible in Telugu. We skip some slides. We go to sentence number 10. Sentence number 10, Kumariki Akali Vesi, Atanu or Kumar Intiki Bhojanam Jettinadu. Having felt hungry, or Kumar got hungry, and he, Kumar, ate dinner. This is Haddad's sentence. Notice that Kumar is there as the matrix embedded subject, dative case marked, and Atanu is there as the matrix subject, or Kumar as the matrix subject. This sentence is not acceptable to most of the speakers that we talked, because this is like the earlier sentence we have seen, Master Gariki Untlo Bagoka Aina Intiki Velipayaru, where you have a similar structure. However, what we are going to see is that in Telugu, copy control is possible under some specific conditions. The question that we want to raise is, does Telugu or any other Dravidian language or any other South Asian language allow copy control at all? Yes, we shall show that Telugu and all other Dravidian languages such as Tamil and Kannada do permit copy control under some specific conditions. It is not free. As before we proceed further, let us make a distinction between universal quantifier and distributive quantifier. A universal quantifier includes the total set. So you have all in English, andaru in Telugu. A distributive quantifier will have prati inta in each house. And we will now show that forward control with the universal quantifier as the matrix subject. An example from Telugu, Andaru Ontlo Bagoka Intiki Velipayaru. All or everyone went home having not felt well. Here, Andaru is the matrix subject, which is a universal quantifier. It is co-indexed with big pro, which is the subject of the embedded clause. So, it is a case of forward control. Backward control in Telugu, అందరికీ ఒంట్లో బాగోక ఇంటికి వెళ్ళిపోయారు. ఒంట్లో బాగోక హ్యావింగ్ నాట్ ఫెల్ట్ వెల్ ఈజ్ అ ప్రిడికేట్ that is a negative conjunctive participle and it requires a dative subject. Therefore, you have andariki untlo bagoka intiki vellipoyaru and the matrix subject is null. From Telugu, to show that partial copy control is possible, let us look at sentence number 14. Evariki untlo bagoka andaru intiki vellipoyaru. Evariki is an NPI, that is a negative polarity item. It carries the negative polarity marker E or I, and Ontlo Bagoka, not feeling well, carries a negative. The negative of the conjunctive participle C commands the NPI. Therefore, this sentence is well formed. Evariki Ontlo Bagoka, nobody not having felt well, andaru all intiki vellipoyaru. Everybody went home. And the evariki who dative NPI in the subject position of S2 of the embedded class is co-indexed with the universal quantifier andaru of the matrix class. Now, what is interesting, though evariki who dative NPI is not identical to andaru that many universal quantifier in form, they are semantically identical. Therefore, they both refer to the same identical entity. This type of identity, which is not formal identity in terms of form, provides evidence to show that you have backward control in Telugu. And this also provides evidence to show that copy control in Telugu is not free as Haddad claims, and Telugu instead has partial copy control where the embedded subject is in the scope of the negative polarity item and the corresponding C commanding NP is a universal quantifier expression occurring in the matrix subject position. Here, they are not identical in form, but they are identical in meaning. There is semantic identity. Therefore, the sentence provides a crucial example for copy control. We'll provide some more examples of copy control to show that copy control in Telugu is a robust phenomenon, and what are the other conditions under which copy control can take place. For example, we shall show that the C commanding NP in the matrix class may be a distributive quantifier in Telugu. For example, you know what a distributive quantifier is? A distributive quantifier is, for example, in every house, Christmas is celebrated. In every house is a distributive quantifier. In many South Asian languages, the distributive quantifier is manifested in terms of reduplication. Here what we see in sentence, evariki sangat teliyaka andaru intiki vellipoyaru. Here you have an NPI with the NPI is in the subject position, and you have negative with the embedded verb. Therefore, you have a grammatical sentence. Distributive quantifier in S2 with an NPI. Let's take sentence number 20. Let's take sentence number 20. ఏ ఒక్కడికి ఈ సంగతి తెలియక అందరూ ఇంటికి వెళ్ళిపోయారు. Literally, ఏ ఒక్కడికి which one obligatory dative NPI, that is not anyone, ఈ సంగతి, this news తెలియక, నాట్ హ్యావింగ్ నోన్, అందరూ, ఆల్ ఇంటికి వెళ్ళిపోయారు. Not even one person having known this information, all or everybody went home. That means, that's the literal translation. Actual translation is, not having had this information, everybody left for their homes. Now, what does Hadda's analysis claim? Hadda's analysis claim that the same NP can occur in the embedded clause as well as in the matrix clause. So, you have in sentence number 20, you have an embedded subject which is followed by an NPI, A Vakkadiki, not anyone, not even one person. And if you have the same NP in the matrix clause, then the sentence would be ungrammatical. We'll see why it is ungrammatical. So if you have a distributive quantifier in S2 as well as in S1, the distributive quantifier in S2, the subject of S2 is followed by a negative polarity item E. So, ఏ ఒక్కడికి ఈ సంగతి తెలియక, not anybody having known this news, then according to Hadda's analysis, you can repeat the same NP. ఏ ఒక్కడు ఇంటికి వెళ్ళిపోయాడు. The sentence is ungrammatical. You know why? Here, ఏ ఒక్కడు is which one? Nominative NP. It requires a negative polarity, a negative in the matrix verb. But there is no negative in the matrix verb. Therefore, the sentence is ungrammatical. The sentence is ungrammatical, let me repeat, because your NPI in the matrix clause is not C commanded by a negative. Therefore, the sentence is ungrammatical. In this module, we have discussed forward control, we have discussed backward control, we have shown that there is a phenomenon called copy control, where the subject of the matrix clause and the subject of the embedded clause may both be overtly present in a non-finite clause, and such occurrence is not free, that is, copy control is not free, as Haddad in his works claims. What we have shown is that there are certain conditions that have to be met in terms of the occurrence of the universal quantifier and the occurrence of the NPI and the occurrence of the negative in the embedded clause are required, and you cannot have a distributive quantifier in the embedded clause and a distributive quantifier in the matrix clause, and such sentences will be ungrammatical. So copy control has to meet certain conditions in terms of negative polarity items and the occurrence of the universal quantifier and the distributive quantifier. Thank you. चलिए हो गया.